In this video, I am attempting to beat a Pokemon Scarlet Nuzlocke using hardcore rules, but in this I can only use shiny Pokemon. If you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe down below. Also, while you're there, why not comment what your favorite Generation 9 shiny Pokemon is? Without further ado, let's get into this. To kick this adventure off, I customized my character and name her Polio, the shiniest thing in the world. I picked Quaxley as my starter and then go off to start the 3 main storylines and get my riding Pokemon. With all that out of the way, I can finally start shiny hunting for my first team member. After a little over an hour, I finally find him, and it's the little green creature, Hoppip, which I named Lilac. I then head off to Cortondo and run into a weird situation just on the edge of it. What the fuck? Huh? You gonna do? What the? With that weird ordeal out of the way, I can then take on the first gym leader, Katie. The battle is very easy as I taught Lilac acrobatics before the battle, so she can one-shot her first 2 Pokemon, and then when her ace Pokemon, Teddiursa, comes out, I put it to sleep and then knock it out with 2 more acrobatics, winning me my first gym badge. I then take off straight away to deal with the Stony Cliff Titan Cloth. After making it to Artisan, I can take on Brassius, the second gym leader. He is also very easy as Lilac knocks out his first 2 Pokemon each with 1 acrobatics, and when Sudowoodo comes out, I terrestrialize and then knock it out with multiple acrobatics to win me my second gym badge. After the battle with Brassius, my Hoppip evolves into a Skiploom. With the battle against Giacomo coming up quickly, I need to get 2 more team members, so I start my next hunt, and after about 2.5 hours, I finally find my next team member, Flamigo, named Dahlia. I then decide that I may as well get the 3rd team member now, so I start hunting, going up and down outside of Cascarafa, and after about 2 hours, I run into my next shiny Numel. Not even a minute after finding the first Numel, I actually run into a second shiny Numel. With my new team members, I then go and beat up the Titan Bombardier. Next, I head off to take on Giacomo, but using Flamigo, I am able to knock out his Pawniard with 1 single low sweep, and then his Revavroom is knocked out with 4 more low sweeps, making it a very easy battle. After beating Giacomo, I head off to Lavincia to battle the next gym. Along the way, I am able to show Nemona who is really the boss, and then I can take on Iono next. Iono leads with Wattrel as I lead with Taka the Numel, so I can knock it out with 2 Rock Tombs. Bellibolt comes in next, so I switch out to Lilac to put it to sleep and slowly KO with Mega Drains. Luxio is brought in afterwards, I put it to sleep and KO with more Mega Drains. Her ace Pokemon Miss Magius comes in next, but it is also put to sleep, and after dealing heavy damage with Mega Drains, I have to switch into Dahlia and KO with 2 low sweeps, winning me the battle. After executing every fire type in the area, I was finally able to take on Miller. I lead with Taka as she leads with Torkoal. I set up a rain dance and then knock it out with 2 more earth powers. Her Revavroom is brought in next, to which it is then brought down to red with earth powers before I switch into Flamigo to get the KO with a low sweep. On my way to take on the Orthworm Titan, my Skiploom evolves into a Jumpluff. After making quick work of the Orthworm Titan using Flamigo, I then quickly start on my next shiny hunt, which doesn't take long as I use the Outbreak method to find myself a shiny Varoom in just under an hour. The battle against Koshu is the next challenge in my way, but with the help of Jumpluff and Sleep Powder, the battle is really easy as each Pokemon is just put to sleep and then knocked out without dealing any damage to Lilac, ending the battle very swiftly. On my way back to the Tag Tree Thicket, Taka the Numel evolves into its last evolution, Camerupt, and just that shiny is so good. Up next was the battle against Atticus, as he leads with his Skuntank and I lead with Varoom. After PP stalling his Skuntank out of Sucker Punches by using Sandstorms, I'm able to freely take him out without taking damage. His next Pokemon is Revavroom. I then start switching between Lilac, Flamigo, and Varoom to stall out its stronger moves before KOing with Flamigo's low sweeps. Muck is brought in next. After dealing heavy damage with Flamigo, I am able to switch to Lilac to KO with 2 acrobatics. His main Revavroom is sent out next, so I switch to Taka to KO with 3 earth powers, ending the battle against Atticus. After the battle with Atticus, I decide that it's time to get myself a new team member, so I go off and start hunting, and shortly after I run into a Mudspray. It wasn't the one I was looking for, but still a very good Pokemon. Before taking on Larry, I am able to evolve my Mudspray into a Mudsdale. Larry leads with his Kamala, and I lead with Flamigo. Flamigo is able to one-shot his Kamala with low sweep, and his next Pokemon Pokemon Dunsparce is also going down for the same fate. His ace Pokemon Staraptor is brought in next, so I am able to hit one low sweep before having to switch into Mudsdale to KO with a strength, getting me my 5th gym badge. Right after the battle with Larry, I am forced into a battle with Nemona out front of the gym. She leads with her Lycanroc, which is knocked out by 2 low sweeps from Dahlia. Hormo comes in next, so I bring in Taka and obliterate it with an Earth Power. Yumi is sent in afterwards, which is also destroyed by an Earth Power too. Her last Pokemon is Skeledirge, which is also absolutely demolished by 1 Earth Power, ending the battle. After the battle, I decided it's time to look for my last team member, the one I wanted when I got Mudspray. But before hunting, I'm able to evolve my Varum into a Revavrum. The hunt didn't take long as I was using the Outbreak method, and shortly I was able to find my last team member, Nimble, and then I straight away evolved it into a Lokix and then went on to take on Rhyme. The battle with Rhyme starts with my new team member Lokix and Revavrum against her Mimikyu and Banette. Her Banette goes down to a single Throat Chop from Lokix, and she then sends in her Houndstone. Houndstone is then also taken out by 1 Throat Chop, and her last Pokemon Toxtricity is brought in, but is then destroyed straight away by Lokix with a Throat Chop. Her Mimikyu is then taken out next with a final Poison Jab, getting me my 6th gym badge. I then straight away went down and took on Great Tusk and took it out straight away so I can then take on the next gym leader. Before taking on the gym, I have to show Nemona who's boss once again before being able to take on Tulip. She starts with her Farigiraf and I start with Lokix. Time is able to knock out her Space Giraffe with 2 Throat Chops, and she's then sending in her Gardevoir next, which I am able to knock out with 2 lunges. Espathra is brought in next, but it is demolished by 1 lunge. And her final Pokemon Florges also suffers the same devastating fate, winning me the battle against Tulip. I then rush back up Glaciota Mountain to take on the final gym leader, Grusha. He starts with Frosmoth and I lead with Flamigo. I use Low Sweep to KO in 2 hits. Beartic is sent in next, but it is quickly taken down by a super effective Low Sweep. He brings in Titan next, but it also suffers defeat at the hands of Flamigo's Low Sweeps. Grusha's final Pokemon Altaria is sent in, but the Altaria is not on the field for long as it is crushed by a Low Sweep from Flamigo, giving me my final gym badge. The next challenge to take on was Ortega. He leads with Azumarill and I start with Jumpluff, putting it to sleep and then knocking it out with 3 Giga Drains. His next Pokemon is Wigglytuff, so I put it to sleep and then switch into Taka to KO with 2 Earth Powers. His Dash Bun is brought in next, so I bring in Lilac once more to put it to sleep and hit 3 Giga Drains, where I then switch out using U-Turn to go into Loco and KO with a Strength. His ace Pokemon Revavrum is up last, so I switch to Honda and KO with 3 Iron Heads, winning me the battle and leaving just 1 Team Star Boss left. Team Star Boss Eri leads with her Toxicroak and I lead with my ever so reliable Flamigo. Toxicroak is swooped to death by a Brave Bird from Flamigo, and her next Pokemon Annihilate is brought in and then suffers the same fate. Lucario is brought in next, so I switch out into Jumpluff to put it to sleep before switching back out again using U-Turn to bring Lokix in to KO with a Axe Kick and Throat Chop. Eri brings in Persimmon next, so I hit it with an Axe Kick before switching back to Jumpluff to KO with an Acrobatics. Her final Pokemon is Revavrum, which is sent in, so I switch to Taka and do heavy damage with 2 Earth Powers before switching into Loco to KO with 2 more Earthquakes. After the battle with Eri, it is time to take on the final Titan, which is Tatsugiri, which gets destroyed very quickly, so I can then take on the final battle against Arven. He leads with his Greedent and I lead with my trusty Flamigo, which I destroyed with 1 single close combat. Arven brings in Scovillain next, but quickly falls to a single Brave Bird. Toadscruel comes in afterwards, so I switch to Lilac to take the Sport and switch to Lokix to KO with the first impressions. The next Pokemon was Garganacl, so I switch back to Flamigo to obliterate it with a close combat. Arven sends Cloyster next, but it suffers the same fate as Garganacl. Arven is now left with his final Pokemon Mobostiff. I switched to Lilac to get rid of the Intimidate drop and then put it to sleep with Sleep Powder. I then use U-Turn next to bring in Lokix to KO with the first impressions, ending the battle and completing Arven's storyline. I decided that my next challenge would be the Elite Four, so I went to take on the entrance test and I passed first try. Yeah, that's right. First try, baby. Let's go. With that done, I can take on the first Elite Four member, Rika. She leads with a Wishcast and I lead with Lilac. I put him to sleep and then KO with a single Giga Drain. Her next Pokemon is Camerupt, so I put it to sleep and then use U-turn to switch to Loco to KO with an Earthquake. Donphan is brought in next, so I switch to Lilac to put it to sleep and then KO with a few Giga Drains. Dugtrio is sent in afterwards but doesn't live long as it suffers a devastating fate at the power of Giga Drains. Her final Pokemon Clodsire comes in last, so I put it to sleep and then knock it out with a few Giga Drains and an Acrobatics, ending the battle with the first Elite Four member. The battle with Poppy was next. She leads with Copperaja and I led with Taka, which gets decimated by an Earthquake. Poppy brings in her Corviknight next. I do heavy damage with a Lava Plume before having to switch into Revavroom to get the KO with a Thief. Her third Pokemon is Bronzong, so I have to switch to Jumpluff to put it to sleep and then bring Time in to eliminate it with a Throat Chops. She brings Magnezone in next, so I switch out into Lilac once again to put it to sleep and then switch out once more to bring Loco in to eradicate the Magnezone with an Earthquake. Poppy's final Pokemon is Tinkaton, so I switch to Lilac once again to put it to sleep and then bring Loco back in to demolish it with Earthquake, leaving just 2 Elite Four members left. Larry is up next. He leads with his Tropius and I lead with Taka, who disintegrates it with a single flamethrower. His next Pokemon is Staraptor, which also suffers a devastating fate at the hands of a flamethrower. Oricorio is sent in next, but he gets his wings torched by a flamethrower as well. Altaria comes in next, so I have to switch to Lilac to put it to sleep and then bring Revavroom in to KO with 2 Iron Heads. Larry brings in his ace Pokemon Flamigo, so I do massive damage with an Iron Head before bringing Lilac in, who lives on 1 HP before KOing with an Acrobatics, leaving just Hassel left. He leads with Noivern and I lead with Taka once again. Noivern is dealt with relatively easily using Rock Slides. Dragalge comes in next, so I switch to Loco to destroy it with an Earthquake. Flapple is brought out afterwards, so I switch to Flamigo to knock it out with a single Brave Bird. Haxorus is brought out afterwards. After surviving a Dragon Claw, I am able to land a close combat before having to switch to Lilac to KO with an Acrobatics. Hassel brings in his last Pokemon Baxcalibur, which gets put to sleep, and then I switch to Honda to KO with 2 Iron Heads, leaving just Champion Geeta. Geeta starts with her Spectra and I lead with Time, who eradicates it with a single first impression. Her next Pokemon is King Gambit, which gets decimated by a single Axe Kick. She sends Go-Go in next, but it can't handle the power of a lunge from low kicks. Veluza is brought out next, but it also suffers the same fate as Go-Go. Avalugg is brought in next, so I switch to Flamigo, who is able to knock it out with a close combat. Geeta sends in her final Pokemon Glamora next, so I switch to Loco to end the battle with a single Earthquake, meaning I have beat the Elite Four, leaving just a few battles left. I easily smash through the battle with Penny next, ending the Team Star storyline, leaving 2 battles left, the first one being Nemona. She leads with her Lycanroc and I lead with Flamigo. Lycanroc is taken out swiftly with a close combat, and her second Pokemon Pawmot is brought in, so I switch to Camerupt to get an easy KO with an Earth Power. She brings Goodra out next, which makes me switch out into Revavroom so I can get the KO with 2 Iron Heads. Nemona sends Earthworm in and I answer by bringing out Flamigo, who picks up the KO easily with a close combat. She brings out the Dunsparce next, but it suffers the same end as Earthworm. Nemona then brings in her final Pokemon Skeledirge, so I switch to Lilac to put it to sleep so I can get a safe switch into Loco, who can get the KO with an Earthquake, finishing the battle with Nemona and completing the final main story mode. After taking the plunge to Area 0 and making it to the end and running into the Giga Chat version of Koraidon, I am able to take on the final battle against Professor Sarah. The battle with Professor Sarah starts with her Slitherwing against my Jumpluff, who squashes the ancient bug with an Acrobatics. Her Screamtail is brought in next, so I put it to sleep and then switch into Revavroom. It actually gets frozen, so I have to switch back out to Lilac, put it back to sleep because it woke up, and then switch out again into Honda to land a Poison Jab before bringing Lilac in to get the KO with an Acrobatics. She brings Fluttermane out next, so I switch to Loco to get the KO with an Earthquake. Professor brings in Brubonnet. To match that, I switch out into Time to get an easy KO with first impression. Sandy Shocks is her next Pokemon. To answer that, I bring Taka in to destroy the Sand Magnets with an Earth Power. Ayasada is now left with her Roaring Moon, which isn't around for long, as I bring Flamigo in to obliterate it with a close combat, ending the battle, which means I have completed the challenge. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe down below for more videos. Peace.